This video is a how to play of Succession. Please enjoy. Succession is a 2 to 6 player game that plays in about 10 minutes. The first step is to sort all the cards according to their house crests on the back. All 9 cards in each deck are the same, so it's just a matter of which crest you feel most affiliated with. For example, we're going to do a 3-player game. I personally will choose the Phoenix for Lord Maxwell, the Lions for Lord Pendleton, and the Stag for the Elven Lands. These are the 9 cards that represent the different vassals in your fiefdom in Succession. Each card is a representation of who they are and where they come from in each region. For instance, you have the escort, represented by the shield. You have the enemy, represented by the swords, and the envoy, represented by the crown. You can also do the designations of where they come from, some city, forest, and mountain, which is also can be seen in the designation of each of the backgrounds of each card. Essentially, Succession at its heart is playing rock, paper, scissors over 3 different planes, or regions in our case. For instance, the escort, represented by the shield, will capture any of the enemies with the sword symbol in their region. Likewise, any of the envoys will be captured by any of the enemies with the sword symbol. However, if you get an envoy through, it's worth 2 extra points to you at the end of the game, so it's essential to get them through. In Succession, the way to play the game is you'll put 2 cards face down from 2 different regions. Now, the first turn, you don't have any restrictions on that. You can play from any of the regions, because you have 3 of each. In subsequent rounds, you're going to have to play at least 1 card from a region that you have the most populace of. So in the second round, the one that you have 3 of. So once we've played our 2 cards face down, we're then going to reveal them for everyone and organize them. Once we've done this reveal and organize, this will help us determine the captures that take place. For instance, the escort in the city doesn't have anyone to capture, so he's going to go to his player's score pile face down. Likewise, in the forest, the 2 escorts there have no one to capture, so they'll go to each their player's score pile face down. The envoy herself will also go to their score pile face down. What we have here in the mountains is a capture. The escort has captured the enemy, and they'll take both those cards and put them in the escort's pile face down. Now we're going to show you several different types of captures in Succession. This is what we call a cascading capture. The escort here will capture the enemy in the city, thus allowing the envoy to be left alone and go along his way and go to his player's score pile face down. This is one of those unique captures where the envoy still gets away, but the escort catches an enemy. This capture is actually a more complex capture of our simple capture. What happens is, the escort here has found 2 enemies in their region, so the escort player will take all 3 cards and put them in their score pile face down, making a 3-point swing for themselves. This type of capture is what we call an uneven capture. We have 2 enemies have captured a envoy in the forest. However, since we can't split them evenly, like in a 4-player game, we will just simply discard the envoy so no one gets the points, and both the enemies will go back to their respective score piles. We alluded this to a second ago. This is what we call an even capture. What we have here is we have 2 enemies have found 2 envoys in the forest. So what they're going to do is they're each going to take 1 envoy, because we can divide them evenly between the 2, and put them in their score piles face down. This could have easily been 2 escorts finding 2 enemies in a region. So this is what happens here in 4 and more player games. After you've played your last card and determined the outcomes, we now get to the part you're all waiting about, the scoring and how to win. So what you do is you take your score pile and you turn it face up and you organize it like so. For instance, anything that you've captured is worth 1 point apiece, so that's worth 2. Any of the envoys of your own crest are worth 2 points apiece. That's worth 4, so now we have a total of 6. And then we add the rest of our cards together, so what we have here is I have a total of 12 points. That's a pretty good score in a 3-player game, and the way we determine that is whoever has the most points wins the new rulership. However, in a case of a tie, it's the person with the most envoys of their own crest. If we go to a second tiebreaker, it's whoever has the most captures, and finally if that's still tied, then you both share the winning of the game.